I'm going to call the Sport Services Committee order, and I have a motion by Evelyn. Can I get a second to accept the minutes as written? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. We're going to do Paul first.
This is purchasing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I promised the chairman I'd be fast, and I will. This is in reference to the Workplace Violence Prevention Plan and Program Policy. This was before you a couple of months ago now, and it had been placed on hold to give some more time to review the changes that we were proposing to the policy. The changes that are in the policy, and everybody should have a copy of it. I think they was left, hopefully everybody got a copy of it. It's left on the desk or with the packets, right? Yes. The changes were just simply adding some offices. Some other changes were just identifying in more detail the specific reviews that were required of the county administrator and also other offices. That was on page 5. There were some changes made on page 7, which was really merely adding language that was already in the statute. That language refers to the right of somebody who feels, an employee or representative who feels that there's been a violation of the workplace policy, but there's not been any action on it. They can actually go to the State Commissioner of Labor, and that is in the law. And then the final changes were on page 8, which the policy, when it was originally adopted and put in the book, simply did not have the attached summaries for the various buildings, so we needed to update that on the next several pages after that. But that had actually already been done. It just hadn't made it into the book for some reason. The only two things, and I didn't want to send out another revised policy and confuse it, because there's just two minor things that should also be changed. And I thought if you were satisfied with what was happening here, we could easily incorporate the two changes, and that is, you'll probably notice in a few places on here, it's at least on page 3 and 4, Westmount is referred to, so we would want to delete that facility because we no longer own it. And the only other change was on page 8, the municipal center, where it describes the municipal center summary of the buildings and offices. It says that there are several entrances to the building, most of which access is not controlled. As you know, that has since changed, so when the county attorney puts this into final form, my suggestion would be is that we just modify that. And if that meets with your approval, I think the policy will be ready to go.
Just a quick clarification. That was going to be one of the points that I brought up as I was reading, like, county attorney's office, assigned counsel. It says well, more for the county attorney's office, there's no control to public access. So I assume those would be part of those.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
John?
On page 8, where you have the following details, the specific risks and control measures for each of the county's facilities, we still have Westmount listed.
Right. I mentioned earlier we would take it out throughout the policy. I knew it was on 3 and 4, and I didn't go through the whole policy, but we would remove Westmount.
Okay.
Yep. And on page 12, where probation department is taken out there, it's not in red.
Oh, yes, you're right. There's a line drawn through that. That should be in red. For some reason, it didn't come out.
So you'd like this?
So you don't need that in there, any language about the probation department?
Right, right.
You'd like us to move on that today?
If you're ready, Mr. Chairman, because it would be nice just to tidy this up, and then you can always modify it again in the future, but I just thought it would be important, particularly since I'm leaving as your county administrator, so that whoever takes over this responsibility, they'll have these guidelines very clearly established for them, so that you can make sure the work gets done.
Okay, do we need to include the revisions in it?
Yes.
That you mentioned? Can I get a motion to approve the policy with the revisions we discussed today?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Evelyn, second by Edna. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I'm opposed. And
I'm sorry.
I have some follow-up that I'll email Paul and Kevin about,
Okay.
that I had previously, so I won't take up the time today to discuss it. And hopefully get that clarified before we vote as a full board.
Motion still carries. Anything else?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to, county clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had, the agenda passed out through the email, but I will, pass the, copy of it to you at this point in time in case you don't have yours with you. I wasn't sure what the protocol was, in this new format, but I'm certainly happy to be here, Mr. Chairman. What I have to present to you today are basically three notices to fill in the county clerk DMV. In presenting them to you, I will note that the first one that I have is a recording clerk, grade 7. That is a full-time position, and that vacancy is due to a resignation. That is in the county clerk's office. I will note that that was previously approved by our committee, County Clerk DMV, back in late June, I believe. There's a number of people here that served on that committee at that time. We are awaiting examination. It would be a provisional appointment. The reason for presenting it to you today is that the position is still a necessary one for the county clerk's office. The notice to fill that was approved back in June, July was expired, and that is apparently a new, or at least an area in terms of the procedure that had not been in place before. But it is in place now, so I come to you with that. It is fully funded in our budget as well.
Can I get a motion?
I do 1 and 2. They both seem to be very similar.
They are.
Okay. Motion made to approve 1 and 2. Can I get a second? Enough? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. The third notice to fill is the result of a resignation, basically, that came up. An employee was tested as a senior account clerk, civil service, and accepted a position in the Warren County Sheriff's Office, corrections area. And that person left her position on January 29th. That is a full-time position. We have had some adjustments to our to the staffing over there in the last few years, but at this point in time, I would certainly not recommend that there be any changes. I believe our review panel has looked through that, HR, civil service, the county administrator, and the budget officer. They certainly do recognize that we are still servicing 60,000 transactions a year. That number hasn't wavered too much, and as you know, about 12.7% of all transaction fees collected at the county DMV, of course, remain with Warren County and go into the general fund. We will be actually pulling that one from a test, so that's a very good thing. That test was done in October. Results came in January. So upon approval and going through this process, we would be going to that list to select a DMV motor vehicle license reg clerk.
Peter, you making a motion?
Yes, I am.
Can I get a second? Evelyn? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next item on this agenda, and my final one, really has something to do with the Westmount, the change that occurred at Westmount with the sale. Warren County has a long standing procedure and policy in place involving records management in Warren County for all county government records. That goes back to 1990. It also includes the approval by the Board of Supervisors of the retention schedules that, of course, govern the records. I know this part of it rather well. I did it for 15 years. So, and typically the procedure involving records management involves the county or the department head, perhaps a supervisor within that department if it's a large department, and also the records management officer, who is me. And so we are usually a team in that approach in terms of evaluating the record. Now, we are in a unique situation with Westmount. Westmount, a former county department, with, department head has been sold as of December, the end of December 2015. But we have created records, from that date and earlier that still require our care and management. So, in discussing, with the county administrator, with the county attorney, with, members of the staff over there, both those that were formerly there, as well as, the current, we have identified, and recognized that we do have to have certain people in place to authorize us as we move through the records management process. There is an individual, Betsy Henkel, who is now a county employee, I believe with DPW, and she is certainly an excellent person and resource to go to, when discussing, Westmount records in terms of, transferring them into the record center, if they were created during the county, as county government records, accessing them, that is not accessed by the public, but accessed by the, department, for department needs. And, of course, ultimately, a disposition. Every record that we create has a life cycle, and it goes from, from its initial creation to its active state to an inactive state, possible disposition if that's, the direction that it must go, or, a permanent retention or archival retention. So there's, and that all involves, a lot of communication. What we felt, in speaking with the county attorney, the assistant county attorney, is that I wasn't quite sure if a resolution is in order, but I think perhaps, it is, that we need to designate, certain county officials or personnel to approve any kind of records management disposition. That would be in concert with the county records management officer, again, myself. To that end, we have identified, Betsy Henkel, who is very knowledgeable, obviously, about Westmount records as created prior to 2015, the county administrator, and also the county attorney, as to be three individuals that would basically co-sign when we came to, those discussions on disposition. They also work with the RMO and with our county records, management team downstairs. So I'd like to present that or answer any, questions about this, that might be asked. Gentlemen? Yes, sir.
RSC, transfer to RSC.
Yes. The Warren County Record Storage Center,
Thank you.
the four-room vault downstairs that houses, it's a central, depository, for all county government records. Established in 1963, still 14,000 cubic foot of records, so.
Not filled up.
It actually is pretty tight right now. Yes, sir.
Going down to the bottom of page number 3, this will impact records with disposition dates through 2022, because I'm a little confused on what that means.
Well, any record is, created has a time frame that it must be retained. So, they may be 1 year, they may be 6, they may be, 10. And so records that have been created prior to this date, will have a time. So a financial record, perhaps, say, created in, 2009, of course, would be eligible for disposition this year. But something created in 2015, last year's records, they're down the road. So I think that's why it's important for us to at least lay out some individuals that we can have this discussion with. We do have to discuss it every year, so.
But it doesn't mean that we're going to continue to store records that are currently being produced at Westmount.
We would not be accepting and working with their records,
Okay,
as of 2016.
thank you.
John?
Will Betsy Henkel become the records clerk then for this particular task?
She will serve as, in an administrative oversight to the disposition process or any record-keeping process if we have questions. I think she might still work in some capacity for, Westmount, and I think Paul might be able to come.
Yes, that's correct, because of all the financial issues that remain even now with the county, she continues to remain active on a part-time basis with Westmount.
And this is a civil service position?
No,
No.
this is just an authority.
Oh, okay.
This isn't a, no, she is employed by the county as a DPW. I think she's in finance up there as well, but she has had, a continuing role with Westmount during the changeover process.
And this won't be stepping on any civil service?
No, it does not. It's an authority for record-keeping purposes only.
But I believe she's getting reimbursed for that activity, I think,
Well, the reason why I say that is because in the town, we have a vacancy for records clerk, so the issue, and it is a civil service, and it does have a specific task, and that does have a job description that goes with that.
This does not. This is an authority authorization process as part of, standard records management procedures. It is not a position, it's an authority.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Evelyn, talk fast.
All right, I just wanted to make a motion that we accept this, proposal of Pam's to designate these folks, just so we have a resolution on the record from whom to designate.
Can I get a second? Second by Craig. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Pam?
Can I
Rob.
ask a question? Betsy works for Westmount, and that, I'm still confused what that means. Is it for the legacy element of it? Is that what you're saying?
I apologize if I wasn't clear. She doesn't actually work for Westmount, the private owners at all.
Right, well, I mean,
She is still kept, her, as a person who is handling all of the financial,
the legacy.
billings and everything else monies that still are yet owed. At some point, that job will go away, but as Pam pointed out, this is really not creating a job when what she's doing is just a matter of having somebody that can say, hey, I'm familiar with these records, and yeah, they're ready for destruction, or they have to be kept, or whatever.
Right, I didn't understand that. Doesn't take much to confuse me.
Thank you, Paul, for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pam. Have a good afternoon.
My wife tells me that all the time, so.
You ready?
I am. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. What's Ron do, go to Florida for a couple months, am I happy?
Yeah,
I wondered if maybe that's where he was.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just hanging it.
We all do.
Okay.
It's all yours, Julie.
I think I can get through this pretty quickly. The first item is just a request for, my deputy purchasing agent and my new purchasing assistant to go to our annual conference. Normally I would have an agenda attached, but they don't have it out yet. Very worthwhile conference. We always gain a lot of insight when we're down there. And, it used to be at the Fort William Henry. Now they have it at the Albany Marriott.
So it's just to attend and transportation.
Correct. Well, it's $250 per person. That's already in my budget.
I'll make that motion.
By Edna. Second by Peter. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the second item is adoption of the 2016 purchasing policy. All the changes are in red. I don't know if you had a chance to review it before the meeting. We didn't make a ton of changes this year, but with the rate of inflation, in the economy, we have not changed our thresholds to kind of, coincide with that. So I did raise the, commodity, public works, and professional services quote thresholds. Obviously the bidding thresholds have stayed the same because they're set by law, but, some of these smaller dollar amounts that our departments are having to quote for, it takes up more time and energy than it is for actually, you know, the savings that we get sometimes. I'll still be getting purchase orders on these, so I can track, you know, if I get multiple purchase orders for an item that eventually gets pushed over $3,000 for commodities. So I'll kind of be the check person on that. We did add some information about P-cards because we have the new P-card program.
What's the P card?
Procurement card is just like a county credit card, but we get a rebate back on anything that we put on that, which,
Air miles?
pardon?
Air miles?
We wish, if we had anybody, flying. And we did add some exemptions this year as well. Membership dues and conference fees, I'm on page 16. Those are set, you know, we really can't control that, we can't get quotes for that, so it just made sense to have that as an exemption. The subscriptions for updates to existing law libraries, we're not gonna go out and change our law library every year. So that's almost like a sole source situation. If we're getting paper updates to a law library we already have, you know, we can't really change that unless they're willing to replace the entire law library. And we added the language regarding auto body repairs. That has been brought up to us. It wasn't specifically mentioned in the exemptions, but, you know, if we get insurance money for a repair, we should go where the adjuster tells us to go. So that kind of spells that out. And these have been reviewed by the county administrator and the county attorney just for clarification. And the other exemption we added was for produce. We have not been able to get a produce bid for as long as I've been here. The market is so volatile that and nobody will bid on it. And it's based on, you know, I forget what the name of it is, but it changes literally daily. And we thought that it would be a good idea to put an exemption in here with a certain threshold, you know, and if it goes over that threshold, then, you know, we would look to state contract.
What is a produce bin?
Produce, like fruits, vegetables,
These are for the meal sites.
meal sites,
Okay, I got you.
countryside,
Okay.
yep. Used to include West Nile. Does anybody have any questions?
Rachel?
Julie, I'm just wondering, on like page 11 and page 15, what were the previous dollar limits? I could see what you increased them to, but I don't know how much they were increased by.
For commodities, we did not start quoting until, well, it was originally 1,000. And the other thing I did was I went and I pulled a bunch of other county purchasing policies just to see where we would fall in line if we did go to these thresholds, and we're right, with these new amounts, we're right where, you know, 75% of the other counties are. So for commodities, it was 1,000. For public works, it went from 3,000 to 5,000. And then professional services went from 15 to 20.
More discussion or questions?
The,
Like this approved?
just the 15 to 20 on professional services, what was the motivation and the rationale for that? And we're talking about $15,000 now?
We are.
Yes.
And there are very few professional services we contract for that are actually below $20,000. So basically it was, again, I went out to see what other counties were doing. Some of them aren't doing RFPs at all. They say it's at the discretion of the department head to negotiate contracts with basically whoever they want. Others were 50,000. So I thought 20,000 was still reasonable. I mean, most of our RFPs are anywhere from, you know, well, it depends on whether it's an ongoing contract, but they can range from $5 to $150,000. So we're on the higher end of that scale, and we're still requiring quotes for lower than that. So there's still a check.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Can I get a motion? Made by Edna, second by John. What? I need another second. Not on this committee.
Oh, I'm not on the committee?
However, I'm informed that there
I
is a
don't-
vacancy.
Thank you,
I
John.
just assume I'm on almost all of them.
Just cover all the bases.
Thank you.
That makes up for
Sitting
not
there so
sharing.
long that he's just getting used to it, huh?
Am I on the next one?
You weren't even elected, John.
So we have a second
Well, I
for
get all
Craig.
the stuff in the mail.
Any further discussion on things other than committee memberships?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
I did not vote.
Yeah.
Okay, the third request is from the city of Glens Falls to obtain some surplus items that we have in our eBay storage area. Our policy says that we will, number one, first and foremost, try to sell it, you know, either on eBay or through a surplus auction. Number two, we put an email out to the county departments to see if anybody has a use for it. And if that doesn't work, we open it up to our municipal subdivisions to see if they have a use for it. So the city has requested that they get 4 guest chairs, an office chair, 2 workstations, and 2 file cabinets. I don't feel there's a value to the county at this point. Very old furniture. We've tried to sell it. We haven't been successful. You know, county departments are buying newer things. So this is just a request to be able to forward or provide those pieces of furniture to the city.
We're getting
Motion.
delivery.
They have to come pick it up.
Peter?
I have a motion.
And second by Mr. Brock. Are you not conflicted on this? Never mind. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the final item is, it's basically a follow-up to, submitting the efficiency plan to the state. As part of that process, we felt it was appropriate to have an intermunicipal agreement between the subdivisions and the county to basically lock everybody into certain commodity purchases. Our intent is to basically work with the towns, to say, okay, you're locked into this list of items, you know, whether it be highway materials, office supplies, you know, and I started that process before we submitted the efficiency plan, so I have a basis for that list. It's beginning July 1st of this year. I think that's what we have in here. And that's because the efficiency plan doesn't actually take effect until 2017. However, we start our bids at least 4 to 6 months in advance in some cases. So we need to have this time locked in so we can get cooperation from the towns in order to have those bids in effect for 2017.
And this is where you send out to the towns, material lists or whatever. Do you
What
wanna
I've
participate
been
in
doing
this?
for those
Yep.
few. And I'm, in furtherance of this, if I could get suggestions from you guys on a better way to get that information, because on those 4 that I've been doing it for, over the last 6 weeks. The response has not been great. So if you have any better ideas of how I could approach it in order to get responses from your highway and, superintendents, that would be great.
No guarantees here.
But as far as the efficiency plan, you
But,
guys
yes,
are locked in,
We're locked
Paul,
into,
correct?
to participate if we're to get any materials of that nature that comes
Right.
through here.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow on what Julie said, if everybody will recall, when we filed the efficiency plan, and this would only be for those municipalities that participated with Warren County. I think the town of Queensbury went on their own, if I recall correctly, and I think the town of Stony Creek went on their own. But for those that participated with Warren County, in order for us to file that efficiency plan and everybody to get the rebate, or the taxpayers to get the rebate checks, we made representations that this is what we were gonna do. So, and fortunately though, when Julie worked on all of this, she developed at that time those commodities that seemed to make sense for the various towns to purchase through the county. So, you know, we tried to make it something that it was useful to the towns. And there's nothing to say we can't expand that list to include anything you want, but as Julie mentioned, there are certain ones that we basically said this is what we're gonna do. So we do need to carry this out, and we do need the town's cooperations that are part of this, to carry it out. And I think that's what Julie's worried about, is if she's not getting responses from the towns, the town, you know, we could have a problem, later with the state on this.
But we have been participating, and we've been saving money by going with
Yeah.
it.
Well, the only thing that's been locked in so far has been the office supply
Yeah,
stuff.
and the e-waste.
The e-waste, yeah, and
Like
the,
that.
well, solid waste, that's a,
And
it's kind of
highway,
a-
you haven't heard from them yet? Because I did give them a knock on their door.
No, and I do a follow-up, well, I've sent at least 4 emails.
All right,
With
well, I
regard to
saw
this
one,
stuff.
and I knocked on their door on that, so I thought that was enough. All right, I'll follow up on that.
No, as a matter of fact, I need to send the ads to the papers today for the 4 that I was working on. So, I've basically got this week to work on the specs, and that's it.
I'll ask Mark why he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing is, after the county adopts the resolution, you guys will have to take this back to your town boards and adopt a resolution. Any questions?
Get a motion? Edna moves it. And Peter seconds. Any further discussion?
And this agreement would be good for 1 year.
It's a 1-year term with 2 possible extensions, so potentially through middle of 2019.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else?
No?
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, thanks for all you do, Julie.
You're welcome.
So Julie, this would be taking effect then in
Go ahead.
2017, right?
The efficiency plan takes
Right.
effect in 2017, but this intermunicipal agreement is July 1st of 2016.
Okay.
So that we can start the bids ahead of time, so January 1st, you can start buying off
Okay.
those bids.
But you did get my email saying the things that the highway said they would be using, because then my question was.
You said you were forwarding it on to Donnie.
Oh, 'cause I talked to him and then I emailed back to you and said, these are the things, the items that he said they, oh, you didn't get that?
I don't
Because
think
my
so.
next question to you was, did you need to know like the exact amounts now?
We need to know quantities, yeah.
That's what I wondered, because we were working on that, and I was pinning them down, and that's why I didn't hear back from you, because then you didn't
Oh,
get these.
you don't need me to do
Yeah.
that.
I can't do anything today, I'm not gonna get back to it
No,
till late, but
that's
I'll work
fine.
on it in the morning, because we did have, I had that sheet that you had, and we started with what we need to do.
We have,
Oh.
one more.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I did not prepare an agenda, I just realized this morning, I had the resolution passed at the last board meeting to exceed the GSA rate for my travel and for Samantha Hogan, but I had neglected to bring it to committee to actually have the travel approved. So it would be for myself and Samantha Hogan to attend the New York State Association of Clerks of County Legislative Boards, and it's in Cooperstown, May 18th through 20th. It does go over the, GSA rate by $11, so it's a total of $22, but we already have the resolution on that. I just need the authorization to actually go.
Motion by Edna, second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
I don't know why you keep looking at me.
So,
Oppositional
Is that it?
disorder, I think.
referrals, pending items, information, privilege report.
I think we're done. Get a motion to adjourn. Are you opposed to a motion to adjourn?
I'd love to stay here all day with you, Ron.
I'll be back after the
I can
break.
oppose it if you would like.
Motion by Rachel, second by Jim. I guess we're done.
Agreed.
Are you done, or are you on the next group? I'm here for the whole day,
I am.
unfortunately. Are you too, John?
Town board meeting